Hey guys, and welcome to a new game. I'm trying something a little bit different here. This is a puzzle game called the Artisan of Glimmoth. Like I said, it's a puzzle game where you're making stained glass windows, and it's really interesting. They do have a first version of this game called Island of Insight, which I do have the full version of. This one's just a demo. Okay, sorry about that. So this is Artisan of Glimmoth. It's about making stained glass windows. I've seen a little bit of it. I actually haven't played it myself yet. So basically, they do have a rules that you have to follow, where you just have to make certain patterns. Different rules will apply to different levels. This is really just a tutorial, so it's going through things. Shapes can be rotated, so for instance, a 1x2 can also be a 2x1. And another rule that is they can't actually cross borders like that. So it can be like that. And then this is just, yeah, you can choose your own color. I'm just gonna go with the actual color template that it auto colors for you. So every section or region has to be a macaroni for this one. And you can't just do like the basic corners. Go like so. And you can also mirror it like that. But each one has to be of that shape. Okay, so for instance, this is a 3x2. You can't go like that. Well, you could theoretically go like that, but if you look, then you have a narrow hallway there, and you cannot make a 2x3 with a narrow hallway. So that has to be like that. Same thing, this has 2, has to go out by 3. Excuse me. 2 has to go out by 3. So your best bet would be to try to start making narrow hallways and go through there. So 3, macaroni, macaroni, macaroni. 3 down like that. There you go. I have one more mission here, which I need to find. Yeah, that's the thing. After a while, then they start to get hidden, and you actually have to find them. So for this one, each corner, there's one corner that has to be out in the open, or not blocked off, I should say, so they kind of just intermingle with each other. And there's one more level. Where is the level? I mean, that's the thing, the levels are a little easy to, not so much easy to spot, but you can spot them because they'll have a beacon come off of it, like this guy. So this is difficulty of 2. Nope. So every shape has to be a macaroni. There we go. And gold borders mean that you complete that section. Either a 1x4 or a 2x2. A 1x3 or a partial staircase. So since this has 2, it has to be part of a staircase. The only staircase you can make with it is that guy, which makes this a 1x3 staircase, 1x3 staircase, and 1x3. So this has to be either a 1x3 or a 1x4. So when it comes to the edges, they have to come out at least 3. So you can see that leaves this as a 3. This has to be a 4. This has to be a 4. And then you can do 3, 4, 4. Now this one, you can't do... This is where that rule applies. You can't do a overridge like that. So it has to be something along the lines of like a 3x3, 3x3, 2x2, 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 and 2x2. There you go. Oh, there you go. So with that, there's only 2 possible options, either a window frame or a 2x2. With that line being there, this has to be a 2x2 and then a window frame around there. But for this one, this is a little different since you can't do a 2x2 there in the center, and a window frame will just make a 2x2 there. You have to do 4 2x2s. With this one here, everything can be solved by logic, so there really shouldn't be any guessing. So, for instance, if you make a L here, oh, that leaves a 1x1, you can't do that. If you make an L here, that's possible, because then you have a 2x2, but then you quickly get a 1x1 there. So, starting out from there, if you do it 1x2, same thing, so that has to be a macaroni. Same with this guy, this has to be a macaroni. This has to be a macaroni. This has to be a macaroni, and this has to be a macaroni. So in that one, there was no 2x2s. For this one, if you do a macaroni, you're stuck with a large macaroni and a 1x3. That won't work. Same here, you get a 1x3, another macaroni, and that. So 2x2, 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 and 2x2. Kind of like a pinwheel. Now that won't always be the case. It just so happens that those ones are tutorials. Now it introduces deltas. So deltas have to be different shapes. All regions must be one of these shapes. So that guarantees this has to be a macaroni, which means this guy here has to be part of a 1x3. That's the only valid 1x3. These 2 squares have to be a 1x3, but since that's just one 1x3, this is one 1x3. And then you can just fill in the rest. This guy, Gemini, the opposite of Delta. Which I don't know if that's truly the case or not. So kind of the same ordeal. This has to be a macaroni. So this one has to represent a macaroni, so it can't actually go this way. It has to go this way to make a macaroni. And then these 2 guys have to represent a macaroni. So macaroni there. You got 1x3, a macaroni, and a macaroni. And this is rose windows. Each section has to have one of each. So simple rule of thumb is when you see two of the same next to each other like that, you can just kind of block them off. Since this is a tutorial, it's pretty simple. Everything's just kind of lined up there. Continuing with the rose windows. Rose windows, you can kind of think of it like the game Flow. I don't know if anyone actually remembers that game or not. But it's roughly the same ordeal. At least that's how I like to think of it. Press Q to flood the whole area, so what that means is, yeah. I don't know why you would even want to do that, honestly. So for this one, that can't meet there, and this has to get blocked off, because this has to come out and go down. So for this guy, that looks about right. And same ordeal with this one. You don't want to ball neck this guy, so this one, I believe, has to go like that. Yep. Okay, next section. So this is back to deltas. So it's either a 1x4 or a 2x2. This guy, so this is a little interesting. You cannot do a 2x2 here. Oh, you can't not do a 2x2 there because of that line there. So that means this guy up here has to be a 1x4. That makes this a 2x2. And so this has to lead into a 2x2, which should be this guy here. This guy here has to be a 1x4. Otherwise it would ball neck there. This guy has to be a 1x4. 1x4, 1x4, 1x4. Oh. 1x4. And 2x2. Gemini. So either a 1x3 or a 2x2. So this has to be a 2x2, which means these guys represent 2x2s. You can't do a 2x2 here because of this ball neck. So a 2x2 has to be there. That has to be a 1x3. That has to be a 1x3. And looking through this, if this is a 2x2 here, that leaves a 1x2. That is not an applicable shape. So you have to do two 2x2s there, a 1x3, and a 1x3. So I am 48% done with the demo, at least right now. All regions must be one of these shapes, either a 1x2 or a 1x3. And they introduce deltas and Geminis. This one's a little interesting. As you can see, there is really only one starting point. And you have to do a 1x3 here. You cannot do a 1x2, which that guarantees this to be a 1x3. Otherwise, that would be a Gemini, which means this is the 1x2 that's missing. 1x2, 1x3, 1x2. The puzzles do get a little harder as the game goes on. This one, you have to start off in the corners. That's a 1x1 and a 1x1. With that being a Gemini, this has to be a 1x1. With that being a Delta, that has to be a 2x2. That 2x2 leads into a Gemini, so this has to be a 2x2. You cannot fit a 2x2 there, so 1x1, 1x1, and 1x1, and it finished it off because there was only one solution. Next one. So this Gemini makes it so it has to be the same shape. You cannot do a 2x2 here. If you do a 2x2 here, that makes it 2x2. Oh, actually, if you do that here, that makes a 2x2 there. 2x2 there, and 2x2 there, but there's no such thing as a 1x1 for this puzzle. So, thinking logically about this, if you put a 2x2 here and 2x2 here, you're left with kind of an interesting shape here, but if you look, it's a U. So if you encapsulate the Gemini in the U, that makes it valid. I'm slouching. Okay. So back to the deltas. Looking at this unique shape here being a cross. With it being a delta, you know that one symbol has to be on one side of the delta and the other symbol has to be on the other side. So looking at the uniqueness of the cross, can't put a cross here because of this empty guy here. Can't put a cross here because of this empty guy here. You can't do a cross here because of that guy there. So the only logical spot for the cross and to start out is right here, which makes this a guaranteed 2x2. Going back to looking at the crosses, if you look at how many spots are remaining, there's 31, not divisible by 2, so that means there has to be one cross left. The only spots you can put a cross are either here, which that leaves a 1x1, which is an invalid shape, or here, which, doing it out, is the correct solution. Next up. So this one seems interesting. So delta, 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 3 shapes. So each of these have to come out into their own shape like that. This one, I believe, would have to go like this actually because of the fact that it's a little bit different there. And same with the Geminis here. Those are pretty even. I'll leave that one there for now. That might have to go out. Logically speaking, if it's descending like that, they kind of form a box. So if you do 2x1 there, 3x1, and then 1x1 there. And then for this guy, you know that it has to be at least this here, because it has to be different from this symbol. With this being the same symbol, it most likely has to go out one more, then out like that, and then like this. Oh. Which that should justify the Gemini. Yep. And then you got a small macaroni there, and then a medium macaroni there. So this one, you got Geminis and Deltas with a very interesting looking shape. Best way I would think about this one is you have a Gemini. If you look at these shapes, it makes a whole square. It actually makes a 4x4, which you look at each of these, and they're 4x4s. So that tells you one of each shape has to go on each one. So let's start with right here. Oh. So that means that the so looking at this, if this is the correct formation of this one, the Gemini has to match this dipper looking thing, but it can rotate. So probably looks something along the lines of this. And yeah, that makes this G rotated. And it follows all the rules. So Delta and Gemini's again. Easiest starting path is this 1x1. That's given. Now there's no unique shapes to this, but you have to look at the fact that this cannot be a 1x1. Therefore it has to go out and it has to match this shape here. But this Gemini has to go out this way, which tells you, since this can't be a 1x1, this has to combine. And the only shape, and it has to be like that because it has to separate there. So now you're kind of thinking, how do you make this shape like that? Nope. I think it's like that. Yeah. These shapes are the same. It's a T shape with a extra 2 on the right hand side. This is a 4 difficulty, so now they're getting a little bit more difficult. So once again, deltas, they have to be opposite. So you got a staircase and you got a tiny macaroni. So with this one, yes, you can make a staircase going this way, but you're left with 1x1. Can't do 1x1s. So that tells you this has to be a macaroni. Which, if that's a macaroni, this has to be a staircase. The staircase can only go one way because you can't have the staircase go that way. So the staircase can only really go that way, leaving this to be a macaroni. But that could be a staircase, so you don't know which way that macaroni goes. You just know that there's a macaroni there. Well, let's see. If you do a macaroni there, so that would either leave a macaroni or a staircase. So macaroni there, macaroni there. That would make this staircase, this a staircase, macaroni, macaroni, but then you're left with a 1x1. Go back to this, because this is what we know. So if you do a macaroni here, staircase here, just because that's what would be left, then you have, well, maybe not, because you can do a macaroni there. So macaroni there, that means this has to be a staircase. This would have to be a staircase, which leaves this to be a macaroni. This can be a staircase, and then staircase. There you go. Back to the rose windows. So same rules apply. Similar shapes cannot coincide with each other. And honestly, you can probably block this one off too, because the only way that this red is getting out is to either go through this blue or this red, so it cannot touch this blue. And it seems to me this red goes there. Nope, that would go like that, and this would go around here. So starting with this red one here, since it's surrounded by walls, cannot hit that red, cannot finish with that blue because of the fact that there's a wall there. So that has to be like this. So it looks to be this has to connect to that. That can be there and there. Yep. Some of these are stupid easy. This guy. So this one's separate like objects. Now everything has to be a T. So taking a look at this guy here, can't do a T anywhere else but this here. So with that being a T, that forces this guy to be an end of a T, so that has to be a T there. Now you can't make this a T because every shape has, every region has to have a rose window. That one we don't know about. So yeah, this guy here has to go down and be an end of a T. Most likely going that way, because if that's an end of T going there, that's an end of T going there, that's the bottom of a T, there's a T there too, and that's the solution. Okay. So these ones have to come out of their hiding holes. Cannot meet with other like colors. So this guy has to go down, which means it cannot go to the right here. And the only solution for that guy is this triangle here. So this most likely means this blue would take a left here, because that red would be lonely and the only way for it to be is with this yellow. This blue has to go towards here, and there's that solution. Okay. So this one seems very intriguing. So block off like colors there. That red has to come out somehow. This blue has to come out somehow. So that has to go like this, and that blue has to come out there. Same ordeal here. Okay. So actually, this blue cannot touch this yellow. So this blue has to go around and snake around here to this yellow. And then combine with that red there. Yeah. Kind of split the board up into thirds there. Level 4. So same ordeal. These have to come out, already taken up 2 colors each. So that means this red is blocked off from there, that yellow is blocked off from there. That blue is blocked off from there, and this yellow is blocked off from there. And actually, that makes that blocked off there too, so that can only go this way. So kind of thinking outside the box here. If you've got a yellow and a blue, it has to meet up with a red, but it needs a alleyway for this guy to pass. how do you meet up with the yellow? You have to meet up with the blue. Okay. So that goes like that. This can tuck around there. This guy meets there. This guy meets there. That guy meets there. And okay. Polymino. Polymino? I don't know how to pronounce this. So depicts the shape of the region. So this has to be part of a 1x3. This has to be part of a small staircase, which also means it cannot touch any of the other ones, like so. Oop, there you go. Oh, what? Is that another shape? What's the shape? Is that the shape? That's a shape. Okay. That goes there. That's not that shape? No, it's not. There you go. Why would you put in that little extra piece there? Okay. So there's only 2 shapes here, so like T-pieces. It kind of look like seahorses. And they have to meet at the Gemini here. So maybe like this? Yeah, that looks right. Shape bank, okay. So starting off in this corner, because you can see right here, there's only 2 pieces that actually fit diagonal to each other with a space. So it has to be like that, and then that's got down like there. So there's that piece. This guy here, you got that U with the gap, and then that there, that there, yep. And then everything just kind of falls into place from there. U, yep. That's not the shape. Nope. I don't know what that shape is. Okay. Let's go up here maybe. So 2 flats, because they all kind of intermingle with each other. No, so that has to be like that. Which means that can't be like that. Which explains why I was messing that up. Oh, wait a second. That can't be like that either. So let's do the other flat side. So that's 3 down like that. 2 there. 3, and then 1. That leaves the fishtail like so, and then that can be like that. The 2 edges meet. And that's in the middle there, and then like that. Change that color. Purple. That makes it look better. There you go. So, this is inequality. So, this section here has to be smaller than this section here, has to be smaller than this section here, has to be smaller than this section here. Excuse me. So, there's also only 12 intervals. So, say if that's a 1, that's like a 2, a 3, and then a 4. You just have random wonder rolls. Yeah. Non-boxy in rose windows, so it can't be like a floor rectangle like that. That's a no-go. But you can just kind of draw through it. So like that maybe, and then just interchange it like that. There you go. Non-boxy. So everything has to have 4, but then there's also so that's just for the hell of it. Start off with the straight 1x4 because that seems to be a go-to, and then you need a spot for this to come out. Can't meet like that, so, and that has to be the same shape. So then from there it's 4, 4. There you go. Precision of 10 in rose windows. There are 30 spots, so that means each needs 10. So let's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that should be the rest. Watchtower. So each of these have to be pointed to one sector. So that has to be a 2, that has to be 3 sectors, and then this would be a crosshair. And each of these have to be a 2 shape as well. Difficulty 5, so now they're getting very hard. So the way I kind of like to think about this one is, so there's a 2x2 here. Well, there's really only 2 spots for this 2x2. And that's here and here, and that's because of this piece here. So if you go like that, well, if you go like this, then this Gemini has to have a piece like this. Well, this 4x4 can only go in one of 2 places, or 1x4. And if that's the case, then it has to go like this. But if you see, this section here has 8. So everything has to cover there, and there's your choke point, because there's no 4x4 there. So if the 4x4 goes this way, that leaves this to be here. So you're like, okay. So I just need to make a L piece here. So that would be 1, 2, and then over this way. Cool. So then going over here, you're like, okay. Once again, a 4x4 can only go in a few spots. There's a T-piece, so maybe the T-piece works. You throw the T-piece there. That would be a 4x4 there. And then you're just kind of left with open spots here. So if you do a T-piece, you're stuck because none of these can fit here. And if you do one of these pieces, once again, you're stuck because one of those can't fit there. And that all derived from this 2x2 going right there. So if the 2x2 goes there, that only leaves this spot being able to go there, That leaves a 4x4 going there. So now you think, okay, what makes the most sense? If you do a 4x4 going there, that only leaves a 4x4 being able to go there. Once again, choke point. So then you're like, okay, so 4x4 goes there, that leaves one spot for this. So then it's 1, 2, 3, and then there. I don't know why I did it that way. Okay, that seems to work. Oh, one too far. And that leaves a T-piece there. And now it's like, okay, so what can fit here? You can't do a zigzag here. You could fit a zigzag here, but then you're stuck there. So then the only option is a T-piece, which has to go like that. Actually, no, this T-piece actually goes like this, right? No. Because if you go like that, that leaves this to that piece. So that has to be 1, 2, 3, up 1. So what if this is like this instead? So that leaves that to be like that. Then you do the T-piece here. And then that goes there. Bingo. So there's one level left. I believe this is the last level. And it's rose windows. So it has to be either 4x4 or a 1x4 or 1x1. Looking immediately, you can see this guy here has to be a 1x1. Which then this is a choke point here that has to be a 1x4. Otherwise, it would be impossible. 1x4 here, same reason. 1x4 here. 1x4 here. 1x4 here. Oh, 1x4 here. 1x1 here. 1x4 here. 1x4 here. And 2 1x1. And I believe... Nope. I am missing one level. Where is that level? Ah! There you are, you sneaky little snake. How do I get to you? Ah, a 4 level. So you can only do 1x3s, 1x4s, and 1x5s. So that tells you everything has to be at least a 1x3. So any sort of choke point, go out 3 immediately. And since they have to be straight lines, that also leaves this to be a new choke point, this to be a new choke point, this to be a new choke point, which, hey, look, a finished shot, a finished spot. That has to be a choke point. So this means that just leaves this to be a 1x4. That has to be a 1x3. That's a 1x3. That's a 1x4. Something's not right here. Stuck on this one. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. That's 2 straight lines have to be there. Which that leaves this having to be a straight line, this having to be a straight line, this having to be a straight line. Okay, yeah. Boom, boom. Boom. That's a 3. This would be a 4. A 3. 4. No, this would be a 5. 3. There you go. And there's still another mission. Right here. You have to do either this shape or a step there. So if it's a step there, that would have to be a step there. But then so if you start with that there, go into that, go into that. Nope. So these have to be separate cells here. So this actually has to be a step right now. Because if you go like that, you could go like that. You could go like that after. Nope. And then a step there, go there. No, because then you're stuck like that, which does not work. But if you turn that into a step, you turn this into there, and then you got a step there. And with that, that is 100% of the Artisan of Glimmoth demo complete. As you can tell, we did 52 levels there. It's only 4.2% done of the whole game. So if you want me to spend money and buy this game so I can record more videos of it, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me how you felt about this game. I got this idea from another YouTuber to play this game. There is a first game from this creator. Kind of better graphics, I would say. And a lot more puzzles to that. So, once again, if you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. All those fun YouTube things down below. Tell me your thoughts on this game. It was pretty fun, honestly, for a quick hour demo. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.